Oh, everything feels like it's trying to get jammed into a day these days. It's been a
Mm-hmm.
very chaotic time trying to launch a new brand and everything. You forget like all the moving parts.
Yeah, bloody oath. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in the group, make sure that this is all live and whatnot, and see who's jumping on, and then we'll get into it because today we're just going to give them an update on obviously fiber has launched with the plant protein.
Yep.
Um, the results back from the trials that we did do originally, and our plans moving forward with the X trials so that, yeah, we can get
Mm.
different types of data and all those types of things. So I'll just
Yeah.
jump in real quick. Cool. Anyone that is on here watching live, just drop us a comment below just to make sure that this streaming is going all good. And you guys can hear us loud and clear. What do you guys have for breakfast? Yep, George is saying let's go. He's frothing. Cool. So let's get into it. First of all, thank you, X Trials, for the first trial that we did. It was
Yeah.
not as expected, but thank you guys for participating and giving us some great feedback.
Yeah. And just some little insights into what we achieved through that trial. When we went and analyzed all the top products on the market, the top selling products on the market, we found some patterns with the feedback. For example, worked out that most of the best tasting ones were coming from certain suppliers using certain techniques. So basically, from the feedback you gave us, we could go back to that supplier and say, hey, we like this particular pea protein, but it was too chalky, so we'd like it milled finer. Our people want it just silkier and smoother, so we little innovations there. We went through and managed to find out what they'd done wrong with some of the other products that manufactured at that place, and gave them some great feedback that allowed them to make our product taste a little bit better. And the funny thing is which I'm kind of so cool about, is that that same knowledge and innovation will go through to the other brands as well. So, it'll actually make the industry better. So you'll find that most of these products will improve over time as we share information to make sure that the consumer gets good stuff,
Well,
which I
again,
think's
that's
cool.
science.
Yeah, it is. It is. And like little things too that were surprising that people were shocked by, which was, like the size of the particle determined how gritty it felt. Like
Mhm.
just making the smaller size made things less gritty.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
100%.
that was cool. And also too, one of the hardest things when you're making a product, and this is why we love the feedback from the public, is actually the ability to determine what level of sweetness. So when we're
Yeah.
all, I mean, I drunk so many of these stupid things now that I'm like a super stevia taster. So like I'll taste stevia like a pig will sniff out a truffle. I can pick up that stevia. But you give it to the other person and they're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so we're so biased when we're in the industry, and it's our products and that sort of stuff as well. So that was so great for the team to tell us that sort of stuff.
Yeah, fully.
Mm.
And yeah, it's been interesting with this launch and whatnot because it's a little bit different to all the other proteins out there that are on the market. So
Yeah.
I'll let you just like touch on that a little bit, like the little extra additives and all that sort of stuff. And for those of you who do watch this, we'll chuck you guys the link below. And might even be able to hook you up with something there as well. So just for the X Trials people.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I've noticed is one of the most interesting things about this launch is that it, like most other products out there, and sensible adult businesses, they typically start with like market research. They'll do they'll go and talk to lawyers and get their trademarks sorted. They'll go and make sure they do things properly. They'll go and build the business structure first. They'll work out what their cogs need to be, or their costs, and what their profit margins, and what the hell's that? And then they'll work everything from there. And this is where it gets a little bit crazy, because what happens next is that we're not those people. So James was an athlete, or is an athlete, an elite athlete, and he's an elite athlete that decided to go plant-based right at the peak of his career, and then try to maintain that as well. So he had some specific needs. He then hit up me, and I'm a naturopath, I've been involved in businesses, but mainly just messing shit up, So I normally just go and invent cool stuff and then help people change lives, and then like have no idea how the adults turn that stuff into a business. So what's funny is most other businesses start from the back end, they get everything right, and then maybe if they need a naturopath or something to formulate, they'll go and find one. But normally they can formulate using Google keywords if they've done enough market research, and that's what they'll do. Then what they'll do is they'll pitch it out to the hundreds of thousands of social media influencers looking for an athlete with enough numbers and a blue tick to like endorse it.
Yeah.
And that's how most businesses are made. So ours coming from the exact opposite, which was an actual athlete that had a specific need, a naturopath who kind of wants to be an everyday athlete, just to be consistent.
Finely tuned, consistent.
Finely tuned dad bod, yes. And then also I wanted to make sure there's products available for me to prescribe and recommend, as a naturopath. So like we went from that angle and then basically scrambled around to go, we should come up with some names. We should, maybe do those businessy things. At no point did we ever do any sort of market research because it's totally irrelevant. What other people want to make. It's more of a distraction than a help, I believe. But what we did research a lot is how things work in the body, how to get James's results that he wanted, how for me to get results when we're such different people. And then the cool thing is to think that we could have a, the everyday athlete that's far from elite. I mean, far from athlete. I should just say an everyday, like,
a human that's not top level like James and can do every sport.
I'm a human being human as opposed to a human being super elite. So but the thing is we're making products that are suitable for all of us, which is great, because when you go and realize that the main thing with elite athletes that they need is exactly the same thing as everyone else, which is to remove the handbrakes associated with poor recovery, stress, inflammation, immune challenges, toxicity, and that sort of stuff, and then make sure that they've got everything else they need to do all the things we want to be able to do. That's how we build a range of products that actually work, So I've been pretty fired up about that. And we, like I said, so the launch then went a bit chaotic because we didn't do the adult things about making sure that we weren't stealing other people's names and things. Like plant owned by the largest retailer in the States. One of them. And then realizing, we probably should have looked
at that a little bit more.
So we've had a little brand change to Fiber, PHYBA. And where I like the name Fiber better anyway, because it's mine, not James's shit idea. But no, there's a thing that I'm really passionate about, because it's something I talk about all the time, which is I'm so nervous that the whole world's going to hijack the fiber movement by saying, because there's all these quotes saying that, like the biggest nutritional deficiency in Western society is fiber and that sort of stuff. But fiber is not fiber, meaning that, so when we look at fiber as like roughage or something like that, we could it's the phytochemicals that's in fiber that does the magic. So it's the phytochemicals. We're looking at the polyphenols, the polysaccharides, all those sort of amazing things that go with the fiber, because the fiber is basically a bulking agent to get your shit together, or food for your bugs. But if you don't have the right phytochemicals with it, there's nothing to control how the fiber is going to work in your body. And then all we're doing is supplying a larger sugar molecule we can't absorb. That's just roughage, and so easily could be a byproduct from someone's soybean farms or something, that's using it to ruin the world. And then next thing you know, we're all like fortifying our foods with some guy's bleached fiber thing because he's not allowed to spray it into the atmosphere to block the sun. That sort of stuff bugs me. So you know what I mean, though. So what we need to do is teach people that it's the phytochemicals in the fiber. So if they're going to bleach the fiber, if we're just going to go, white high fiber breads, if we're going to just go, this thing's got fiber, this has got fiber, but you wouldn't know, it's just like water. Then it needs the astringent tannins, it needs all these other compounds in it, that make it in its whole natural raw form, and the form that makes us need to eat locally and eat fresh and eat what's in season. And if we all understand the importance of eating locally, eating what's fresh and eating what's in season, then we can actually offset these big stupid movements where they want to basically take over massive pastures and that sort of stuff in like certain regions of the world and then distribute these food around, which is terrible for the environment. We want to be eating fresh, local stuff made within your region that you're going to get within a reasonable period of time from when it's left the tree. you know, when it's
Yeah.
still alive. You know, we can't just replace everything with some synthetic fiber powder. That's where I'm really nervous. So that's why we spelt fiber PHYBA, because of the
Yeah.
phytonutrients in the fiber.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. And then also because we got in trouble for like copying a word, that we thought we better make one up really weird. So we spelt fiber wrong as well.
First of all, forgot about the A in plant, and then now it's off the...
Yeah. Well, we couldn't afford it initially. So we couldn't afford to buy a vowel when you're doing a startup, but we did do a little soft launch. So then we could basically swing $50 into an A, put it at the end.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd just be fib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, classic. All right. Well, with everything as well, because you've touched on a bunch of stuff there, just to reiterate on that, like, why is it so important? Because I like the nitty-gritty stuff. Why is it so important to eat local and have those astringents, those tannins, those polyphenols and things in your fiber? Because at the end of the day, I know the mission behind fiber is good quality products, all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's still a supplement to help out with your diet, right? So let's touch on that, what the importance of the core fundamental nutritional stuff is there.
Well, we've learned a lot about microbiome diversity. Okay, so we're talking about lots of different types of bugs. So what we need to know is that it's actually not the bugs inside us that determine if we're going to be healthy or not. It's all just as like it's not just what we eat. You know how like one man's medicine can be another man's poison, you know? So we all react differently to food. So what we eat plus the bugs that live inside of us is very unique. But it's what the bugs make out of what we eat that actually generates a lot of benefits to us, okay? So the more diverse our microbiome is, the more different types of bugs we have, and the more diverse our diet is, the more different types of chemicals we're capable of making. And each one of those chemicals may have a different beneficial effect or a negative effect, you know, if you got the wrong bugs with the wrong diet. So this is where the importance of microbiome diversity comes in. Now, to get microbiome diversity, it's not just a matter of just filling yourself up with more and more bugs, because we can only fit so many in. So a big part of our microbiome diversity, it's almost like they're going to turn up anyway, all right? These little buggers, our dirt's full of it. They're everywhere. It's all over our food. These little microbes are everywhere. So more often than not, the problem is that we have too many of a certain strain of bugs that's just resistant and stubborn and just hanging in. And then what happens is all these other bugs that are coming in through our food, they can't make any space. So the chemicals that are found in fiber, so fiber feeds the bugs. And it'll feed most bugs indiscriminately. Just say, hey, here's some food for you, you know. But the phytochemicals that go in with the fiber, the polyphenols, the polysaccharides, these other things, they actually work by killing some bugs and supporting other bugs. So they work like a prebiotic fiber, but they're a little bit more specific, where they won't just generally feed everything. They'll basically kill off some and feed some others. And what we find is those herbs that have got this long reputation for being amazing, doing amazing things for our body, we're finding now that a lot of it's happening by their ability to change the bugs in our guts, or change the way the bugs in our guts moderate the foods in our diet and what sort of chemicals they make. And so it's kind of really, really cool, because the beautiful thing of eating fresh and local is mainly the fact that these polyphenols, they degrade very, very quickly. But also, if they're picked green, and sometimes they don't even, ripen on the vine, they don't develop these things. And then when we're eating highly processed foods, they're usually removing a lot of those peels and skins and seeds and everything, so we don't get them. So this is where we kind of fit in, because, we're talking about telling people to go to your local farmer, but at the same time, we're trying to sell supplements to allow people to live a healthy and happy life, So this is the challenge. And this is the beautiful thing that we can do through the extraction, and actually looking at the fact that, for example, juicing industries and these sort of things will take the sugar and throw the pulp away. We can actually use extraction techniques to preserve and control and standardize the level of phytochemicals that would normally be found in the fiber. And so what that basically means is when you get a fruit like apples, for example, 80% of the polyphenols have been broken down within 2 weeks, of just sitting on the shelf. Now, apples are all picked in 1 month in Australia. So if you're eating an apple now, the month in Australia, I think, is February.
Yeah.
So if you're eating apples now, they're probably picked in February, and the polyphenols reduced by 80% within 14 days of when they were picked. And now you're eating them to be healthy, and you're going to get the skin because that's where the vitamins are. It's like, well, a lot of them broken down. When we make a supplement, we're capable of extracting those polyphenols and preserving them and holding them. So that way, all year round, we can supply those sort of things in a standardized form where we know they're actually going to be there. Because otherwise, when we're eating a lot of these foods through shitty farming practices and storage techniques, what we're often getting is a lot of the sugar, some of the fiber that's left if it hasn't been genetically engineered out to make it taste better. But we're not getting many of the polyphenols and that sort of stuff. So that's the benefit of actually having polyphenol, phytochemical, botanical supplements, herbs and spices and these other extracts, because we standardize them all to the active ingredients. So we know you're going to get the doses that we think you need, So does that make a bit of sense?
Yeah, well, that's I've literally read, I think you might have even shared that study with me on the apples and whatnot, like with different types of farming practices and those types of things, how there's just complete like nutrition profiles out of different fruits and vegetables that are gone from a couple of decades ago. So it's like, that's the reason why, because like I always bring it back to when I was in practice as a naturopath and coach and that sort of stuff. I would always pick the best thing for the person. Like, we know that eating local and all that sort of stuff is great for you, but at the same time, if that busy individual is not going to go to the farmers markets, buy that sort of stuff, then I would say you're going to be best off having this type of supplement, because we know you're not going to be compliant with going and getting local fresh food. And that's the power of supplements. And it's so cool to be in a day and age where we can have a choice between that as well and be aware of it. Like, cool.
And that's why they're called dietary supplements. They just supplement the diet almost as like a safety net, or just in case I don't get it today. Like there's certain things that we could easily put into a smoothie every day or something. It goes, right, I've covered some really good basic nutrients. I've covered these polyphenols. I've covered some oil. I've covered the basics. And then I'll try my best to do the rest today. And if I do it all great, that's great. But if I don't, then I know I've had a little bit of a safety net to know that at least I've got the very basics that I need to make sure I'm capable of doing the things I want to do.
Fully. That's like a morning practice that I've put back into my lifestyle at the moment. I've got like this rock salt, this Himalayan rock salt that I put in a jar, and I just let it sit there because it's really dense in electrolytes. I have that with some fresh lemon each morning, squeezed into some water, hydration straight off the bat. So it's like, I know I'm getting that at the start of the day. Got a bit of brain hydration, that sort of stuff before I get into coffee and things like that. So,
oh man, I'm getting obsessed with dirt again. I went through this whole phase with Shilajit, and now it's like, oh no, now I've like discovered some other new things, and I've made some new friends. I'd have some new information around dirt. And I'm like, man, I get so obsessed over these silly little things like dirt. But I'm not talking just dirt. I'm talking like
cool
Pete, Pete, he's awesome. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, we're talking about layers of the ground that we've got like all sorts of different compounds in there. You got all the minerals, you got all the broken down plant matter, you got all these little folate complexes and human. I'm obsessed with folate. I'm obsessed with the breakdown products of plants. It's like, I'm positive one day I'm going to invent human compost, like the best compost that humans will thrive on. I reckon I should do that. That's what we got to do. Actually, funny thing is a lot of that's probably the best way to describe actually how postbiotics, like the gut matrix we put into our plant proteins, that's the best way to describe how it actually supports a healthy microbiome. It becomes like a compost for your own microbiome, because everything that your microbiome needs to grow and thrive is in the dead microbiome. They're cannibals. They feed on each other and stuff like that. Like, it's so crazy when you get right into it, because realize how does one strain of bacteria dominate in a gut that's got thousands and thousands of these strains? So it's a spin out. But what they do is they actually, and this is a really important insight into how they affect our health as well, because maybe they don't care about us as much as I think they do, but if they feed on sugar, for example, you've got bugs like candida, fungi like candida, they love sugar. Okay, so what they'll do is they actually want to steal the sugar from the cells around them, and that's how they grow. They release chemicals that stop other cells from feeding on the sugar. and then they get the sugar, and then the other ones die off. Now, this is the weird thing, is we can actually measure those chemicals in your urine so that you know that's also competing with you for your ability to burn sugar. And then surprise, surprise, certain strains of microbiome have been associated with things like type 2 diabetes, where you can't burn sugar. You can't get the sugar out. You're like, oh, hang on, maybe it's these bugs are competing with you for the sugar as well because they want it. And then we start learning about things like microbiome mutiny, that if you're sick and weak enough, your bugs will eat you. So, yeah, these are crazy.
Well, I know that there's a couple of events and things coming up as well. So, like our podcast intro, we're everywhere. That's actually going to be happening. So I'm going to have a scroll through these comments, and anyone that is watching, feel free to ask us whatever you want, because we'll get into some Q&A after we've told you where we're heading and those types of things, and some things that we can look forward to.
Yeah, so like we're getting back on the road now. I don't actually know where we're going and when.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. The point is we're going to get back on the road. We've got some big events. The start of November in Wollongong. I think we're going to be at that big Down Under event, which is going to be such a cool event. I'm so excited for. Oh, it's going to be epic because all the Aussie CrossFitters are so badass and the toughest in the world. They're so cool. And then we go and challenge the other guys to come over and have a crack, because it doesn't matter if you don't win the World CrossFit Games. If you win the Down Under, you get bragging rights, the really important bragging rights. Because it won't matter, man. If someone comes and beats Tia Toomey in Australia, they will never let her forget. If someone comes from one of these other guys comes from America, like Hunt the Sheriff or something, turns up and does all right against James, it'll be like, man, we never hear the end of it. So the bragging rights for this is better than any sort of trophies. But we're probably going to go down there and set up some podcasting, set up a really fun stand, have a ball, run amok. But in any one of those things, we'll let all the X-Trials people know where we're going to be when. So that way you can come down and you get a special treatment to come in and get some taste testing and get maybe any of the free shit that we have available and that sort of stuff. You sneak into the front of the line, you come sit with us. So that's how we rock. We're going to be in Mackay at the end of November as well. I'm doing a seminar with Siri, the voice of Siri, Karen Jacobson, and Ken Ware, my mate. A few other people. It's going to be a cracker of an event. We might do a few more of them as well. But basically, as of for the rest of this year, and then it's game on, we're going to be traveling around everywhere. We're going to let everyone know where we are. So wherever we are, you can come and find us, and we'll catch up and do some training, do some chatting, get some free shit out.
Absolutely.
T-shirts. Don't forget my T-shirts.
Yeah, we've got some cool T-shirts that are in the line of things. So, so anyone that is on here live, feel free to chuck us any questions. But we were just jumping in today to give you all an update because it's been a couple of weeks. And then, we'll be rolling out a few really cool things and probably get James to jump back in here in the next week or two to let everyone know how this protein has been going with him, with all of the things that he is doing. And because
he's a juggernaut, man. He never fucking stops. So the fact that he's still alive right now, we know the protein works, because if you see what the guy does, he just never bloody stops. Yeah. He's actually exhausting me. I like sweating a little bit thinking about it.
He's weight, running businesses, like competing, traveling everywhere. He's an athlete.
It's good, and it's good doing a business with an athlete because they get it. You got to do the work to get the results, and if you don't do the work, you won't get the results. And don't be upset. Choose a better attitude.
For Wollongong.
What?
Do you know the date for Wollongong at all?
18 to 20.
Yeah, 18 to 20.
I think I could even be wrong.
We'll share it in the group.
But I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
It does sound familiar.
Cool.
And then because Mackay is the 26th, 25th, or the 26th, so it's the weekend after.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up there for today, and we'll jump back in here next week and give you guys some updates as we're going, and we'll make sure to share you guys all the stuff that comes from fiber and the plant protein and things to come down the track. Hey.
Yep. Oh, mate, you wait to see how excited I am with this stuff. I'm already on to the next products.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm frothing over that because it's free reign to just play now, and it's so good.
And it's something completely new again.
Oh, mate, it's actually really, really exciting. And best time ever to actually be coming back into the industry because of the amount of innovations that's happened in the last decade or something. You know, a lot of good science that came out during the pandemic and that sort of stuff as well. So it's really exciting times, man.
Amazing.
I mean, that shit never made the news, but there was some amazing science that came out. Don't get us in trouble, Ty. All right.
Classic. I didn't say nothing. All right, see you later.
See ya.
Peace.